My name is Jean, and I was born in the front room of number 10 Hampshire Street, Gypsyville, in January '47. I've been told that the weather was very severe that winter, and my dad had trouble getting out of the house to go for the midwife. Lucky for me and Mum, he made it. My sister Wendy was born in February 1948, also home birth, followed by her sister Yvonne in December 1950, who was born at Headon Road Maternity Hospital. When the ambulance brought her and Mum home, the stretcher bearers put Yvonne in the armchair. Whilst they tried to get Mum up the stairs, our stairs had a twist at the bottom, so it was quite a struggle for them. Whilst this was going on, my dad's mum, who lived at number 4 Hampshire Street, came in. As she was about to sit down, my dad shouted, "Don't sit there, Mum, the bairn's in the chair." Lucky escape for our Von, as Nana was a big lady, and Von wasn't much bigger than a bag of sugar. Meanwhile, after a lot of struggling, the ambulance men finally got Mum upstairs to the bedroom. Yvonne didn't have a good start in life. She was in Castle Hill Hospital when she was still a baby with double pneumonia. But she was a fighter. She was only about 4'11", but what she lacked in height, she made up for in personality. She's no longer with us as she passed away very unexpectedly. She is missed every day. Last was our brother Gary, who was born November 55. My dad had served in the Royal Artillery during the war and came home injured. Not knowing what sort of a job he could get, he did get work on the dockside as a fish filleter, and this is what he did all his working life, on the dockside and in all weathers, and finally inside the fish houses. He was never out of work and worked hard all his life. He had an allotment at the bottom of Monmouth Street, where he spent a lot of his free time. He grew everything: vegetables, fruit bushes, tomatoes, rhubarb and flowers for our mum. Wendy and I spent a lot of time there with our dad, and if we were not at the allotment, we played in the backyard. Because Wendy and I were born before Von and Gary, we were together a lot because we always felt we were a lot older than them. In 52, I started school. I went to Francis Askew, and I couldn't stand my first teacher, Mrs. Smith. She was awful. After school, I played in the street with the other kids. Hopscotch, conkers, marbles, rope around the lamppost so we could swing round it, chasing each other down all the passages, as these linked all the streets together. Great escape routes when we played knocking off ginger. Apart from all the street games, as we got older, Mum let us go to Pickering Park, and we always made a point of going in the Maritime Museum outside the park. And we went to Little Switzerland when we got our bikes. We also went to Saturday morning pictures at Regis Cinema and roller skating at Madley Street Baths. We also went to Sunday school at Brighton Street Chapel. Auntie Doris waited at the top of every street to collect all the kids, and off we went. We did the Maypole, the May Queen procession, and was in 2 plays, one as moonbeams and one as elves. Dad made our elf costumes out of crepe paper, and they lasted the play out. Wendy and I, as we got a little older, earned pocket money making patties for our local fish shop, Bob Bolton's. He was a childhood friend of Dad's. By this time, Dad had got a car, so every Sunday we went out, boat full of food and flasks and drinks, Mum, Dad, Nana and us kids, all in the car, and off we went. But like everything, we were growing up, and I left my childhood behind to start work in 1962. My first job was at Woolies, in the cash office. I loved it there. We had a half-day closing on a Thursday, and we went on coach trips to Bridlington and to the Alhambra Theatre at Bradford for the pantomimes. During this time, we went back to school to play bingo with the Westhill Tenants Association in the Low School Hall. Wendy and I also went on coach trips with them. We also went on a trip with them to Everthorpe Prison, where we enjoyed a social evening in the Prison Warders Social Club. We also went to a lot of dinner dances, Skyline, Jackson's, Blind Institute, new cocktail dresses for every one of them. Then times were changing and it was parties with a buffet. Went to a lot of these for weddings, engagements, birthdays, and we cannot forget going to Locarno. In 1968, I got married, and this was another dimension in my life. In 73, I left Woolies as I was pregnant with my daughter Caroline, who was born in 73. After she was born, I still had to work as her father was bone idle and lazy. He stayed home and I worked because he wouldn't. Wendy was my go-to during this time, as she was married with 2 sons and 1 daughter. I always needed advice if I thought there was something wrong with Caroline. There never was. She'd just been protective. I managed to get a job on the forecourt of Parish's Garage on Anlaby Road, which was where I met my present husband. In 79, I finally got rid of my ex-husband, divorced and walked away. Moved down Woodcock Street to be nearer to our Wendy and started again with nothing, except for furniture I had been given. It was tough, but I was in for better times after I married my second husband in 83. My life and Caroline's took off like a rocket. I still worked, had a few jobs after I left Parish's. I worked at Central Carpets, Brown's Printers, and my last job was at Copeland's. We still had staff dinners and dinner dances, well, discos, by this time, and family parties. One night, I was on Facebook and noticed middle child wanted people to share their Gypsyville memories. Dragged our Wendy along to Gypsyville Library. Oh, the inside of this building changed a lot. Anyway, we met middle child. They were fantastic. They were producing an open-air play about Gypsyville. So me and Wendy talked our heads off, so there's no change there because we could never stop talking. The play was produced and was held in the open air at the bottom of Essex Street. It was a great afternoon. We then joined the Gypsyville Library coffee morning, met school and work mates from years ago, and Dave Windus from Absolutely Cultured made the coffee mornings interesting, informative, and above all, a great laugh. He introduced us to university professors, TV stars, poets, authors, comedians, Benzie, Alec Gill, Paul Schofield, and many more. Nancy, one of our coffee morning friends, told us about the West Hall Hub at Francis Askew School. It's held in the last dining room I remember from my school days. This is a lot different to coffee morning, but we have speaker singers, so there is entertainment. With coach trips, so we are still having a social life that includes music and dancing, albeit seated with our lovely Holly Gibbs. Theatre trips, and this now. There's been a lot of change over the years, but I am now in a place where I want to be. I went a bit wrong at the end, sorry.
Hi, my name's Barbra. I was born in 1957 in Hull. My parents were from Barnsley. Dad was a coal miner. They'd run away together and ended up in Hull. I was the eldest of 5, and being the eldest, often had to help with the younger ones. I went to Daltrey Street Infant School. Myself and friends would play on bomb buildings or shimmy up a lamppost with a rope so we could swing round it. I went to Sunday school at City Temple just so I could go to the Christmas party. I learned to swim at Madeley Street baths. During winter, the baths had boats placed over it, and people would go there to watch wrestling. We moved from Esler Road in the late 60s to Gypsyville, where we had a bathroom, no more tin baths. I went to Francis Askew Primary School, where I joined the Junior Red Cross. As part of the Red Cross, I volunteered at Esselwood Orphanage and Bethune Avenue Day Centre for the elderly, where we would serve meals and cups of tea. Then I went on to Elise Johnson Senior School, and I hated it there. Myself and a few friends would often twag school, and we often ended up in the Maritime Museum near Pickering Park, where we would tell the curator we were doing a school project. I left school and went to work at a clothing shop that lasted a few weeks. Left and got a job at Metal Box. Spent the first few days in and out of the nurse's office. Every time my hand slipped, the tin would cut me. We would get our wage packets on a Thursday. Then it was straight over to Boulder's record shop to get the latest chart record, the grand price of 42p. Friday night was disco night at the Red Lion in Annal Bay. Danced the night away and then the long walk home. I never made that walk home sober. No. One night I had a date. He took me to Gypsyville Tavern, where I noticed a lad with the biggest smile and bluest eyes, winking at me. That night, I left my date and walked out with my future husband, Mick. 2 dates in one night, not bad. Within 2 months, Mick had moved into my flat with me. 13 months later, we were married on the 4th of September, 1976, the year of the heat wave. We had our first rowing that year. To this day, I cannot remember what it was about. Mick used to do FX model planes, and he had them all on display on top of the chest of drawers in our bedroom, till I swiped them all off, jumped all over them. Mick walked calmly out the bedroom. I felt so bad that I'd done what I did, until he came back into the bedroom and presented me with a black dish. He had gone and melted my Roy Orbison LP into a dish. And he walked away singing Pretty Woman. We bought our first house in Rugby Street, Hessel Road, in 1976. Mick worked at a woodyard in Brough. He would travel to and from work by train. And our first son was born in 1978, and our second son was born in 1983. The council placed a compulsory purchase order on the houses on Hessel Road. So in 1984, we moved back into Gypsyville, where we had both been brought up. Our third son was born in 1986. Throughout our married life, Mick would sing. He had a good voice. He would sing while we danced round the house. Later on in life, he would enter talent contests. He even won one once. Mick was made redundant in the 90s. By this time, I was volunteering at Francis Askew School, where our boys went. Mick became the parent governor and started the first ever rugby team up from that school. He got sponsors to raise the funds to buy the kit and equipment, took his coaching exams. The team did really well. We were already running a rugby team for teenagers from our home. Ourselves and a small group of parents helped to set up the computer room at the school. We were taught to use the computers, took the exams we needed, so we could teach children and adults to use the computers. We opened it 2 nights a week so families could come and learn together. So with rugby teams' computer rooms, we were quite busy. I sat my desktop publishing exams and started the Gypsyville Neighbourhood newsletter up, funded and delivered by the council. Mick met the late Queen when she visited the school to see the computer set up. I later met Prince Charles when he visited the estate, presented him with a copy of my newsletter. Then a child was knocked down outside the school. We joined a group of parents protesting to get pelican crossings installed. We would form 2 lines of parents so the children could walk safely between us. We eventually got the pelican crossings installed. I went on to become the manageress of the Children's Society charity shop, where we met many local characters. One of our local homeless young lads used to come in and we used to give him clothes and bedding and anything he needed. and he'd asked if he could have the wash, and I'd brought him water, let him into the changing room. No problem. 15 minutes later, we could hear this cackling, absolute hysterical laughter. When we pulled the curtain back on the changing room, the lad was stark naked, laughing at himself in the mirror. Yeah. Then in the mid-90s, the council decided they were going to demolish good quality houses on the estate. To build houses for sale, our home was one of those to be demolished. Time for another protest. So we joined the Gypsyville Action Group, GAG for short. We did petitions against the demolition. We did protest marches through town, disrupted planning meetings at the Guildhall. After months of fighting, we lost the fight. Demolition was to go ahead. We would lose our homes. Although we did manage to save a few, which made it worth it a bit, we moved to the other side of the estate. Life settled down. Mick worked at Ideal Boilers. Our sons grew up. Grandchildren arrived. We still danced with Mick singing, but now we dance with a grandchild between us. How they giggled when we did that. In 2015, we noticed small changes in Mick. Couldn't remember how to work TV remotes. Couldn't remember things he'd done or said. And his wife had noticed too and contacted me. We got him into doctors. They said he was depressed. I queried dementia. They said he was too young. It was to take 18 months of hitting a brick wall, constantly fighting every step of the way. We finally got him a brain scan in 2017. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. He was just 63 years old. So we set about making memories with him. I took him out every day, watched the man I loved deteriorate over and over. He couldn't remember us, but he still loved to dance. So Christmas, we spent it just the two of us. Our sons and their families came different days, so we could keep it calm for him. Christmas Day, I put his CD on of him singing, and I held him, stood close to me, and we gently swayed to the sound of him singing. Our last dance together. Mick passed away on the 7th of September, the 7th of February this year.
My name is June, and I was born in 1951. I grew up on Willoughby Road, and I lived with my mother, my father, and my older sister. I remember lots and lots of good times and happy times. Family parties, Christmas, and playing with friends. I still have today. However, I do come from a broken home. That broke apart when I was about 12. There were some not so happy times before that, but I choose to remember the good times. School seemed to go very quickly. I wasn't particularly academic, and I wasn't particularly bothered. I liked to chat a lot, and potentially a little bit cheeky, and I always had an answer for everything. I haven't changed. When I left school, I did some odd jobs. I worked for the money here and there, but nothing stuck until I started at Hull Royal. I was there for about 10 years, working in the offices and some nursing. I left there and went to college. I got my sign language and my NVQ, and then I joined St Anne's, which is a special school. I was there for 30 odd years and still there today. I enjoyed it, so after retirement, I've still gone back. I'm so proud and protective of these amazing young people I've worked with over the last 30 odd years. People look and only see the disability, but they are smart, interesting, funny, and very determined. But there's a lot more to these people. I was married for 24 years, and one day I just woke up and thought, can't do this anymore. I had no plan, no idea of what was going to happen, never knew what would happen next, and 2 girls to look after seemed to be repeating itself which history sometimes does. But I stepped up and took over the family finances, which I didn't know much about. I was scared and it was daunting, but I said to myself, come on, Joan, you wanted this, so who else is going to do it? I went into survival mode and pushed my feelings to the back so that I could step up for my daughters. Life after divorce was very, very difficult. But welcome, I was alone but not lonely. I had the freedom to do what I liked, no one to fight with over the remote. It's now in my penny pocket. I did have more time for friendships, but soon found my friendship groups dissolving and didn't feel like I'd found my people. My confidence felt quite unliked, unlovable and boring. Then one day I went into Gypsyville Library to renew my bus pass and happened upon a whole new community. A year later, I have a strong group of friends who care about me, we care about each other, and we empower each other.
Right, welcome everybody. My name's Patricia, and to those who really know me, it's Pat. I was born late December 1952. I'm the second oldest of 6 children and the only girl. The first 12 years of my life was spent living in a house down Regent Street, just off Hessel Road. The house had no bathroom or electricity upstairs and an outside loo. As youngsters, we had a lot of freedom to do whatever we wanted, providing we didn't get into any trouble. We'd play on the bomb buildings, play games, spent lots of time with friends and only went in if we was hungry. I remember on one occasion, I climbed a lamppost. I'd been eyeing this lamppost for quite a long time. I finally got to the top of it, sat astride the bars that went across. When I'd thought I'd been up there long enough, I decided to slide down. when I felt these warm hands in my bottom. It was a policeman. So I got a quick lecture from him. I went to 5 schools in total, not because I was naughty, just because we kept moving. But it was the first one, St Wilfrid's, that I disliked the most. The nuns didn't like me and I didn't like them. So one day when I was about 6 years old, I thought, no, I'm not going, I'm going to go to West Park and have a play on the swings. Somebody had spotted me though. Next thing I know, there's 2 nuns coming towards me. I thought, oh. So I kept the swinging as high as I possibly could. They tried to coax me down, and about half an hour later, they finally went back to school. I knew I was in trouble, and I often regret not going back with them because I might have not got the cane then. But I did. I did convince my mother to send me to another school eventually. So I left school at 15 and attended college for my pre-nursing and eventually my SEN training. During the holidays I worked at Boyce's, or as my friend would call it, Boyes. It was on Hessel Road and it's where I met Steve. I was the one to ask him out first time, but it took another 3 weeks before he plucked up the courage to ask me out again. When I met his parents, I was nervous. And after the usual hellos, I noticed there was a budgie cage in the corner. So I thought, oh, I'll go have a look at the budgie. Looking into the cage, I noticed it was stone dead, flat on its back. And so I thought, oh, right, now what do I do here? So I looked at his mum and dad. I turned and says to him, do you know your budgie's dead? So his mum just looked at me and said, is it, really? So I says, yeah. So she says, well, I wonder how long it's been dead. Anyway, Steve quickly ushered me out the house. We saved and saved for a couple of years, and when we'd got enough money, we finally booked our wedding day for August the 28th, 1971. I couldn't manage a new dress, so I borrowed my sister-in-law's. I didn't realise that she'd borrowed it from her friend. And unfortunately, both their marriages ended in divorce. But the night before our wedding, Steve came knocking on the door. I'm sorry, but I can't go through with it. I'm too nervous. So I just looked at him and just says, fine, and then promptly slapped the door in the face. I turned up at the church not knowing whether Steve would be there or not. And as I walked in, I turned right to face the altar and he was stood there. We didn't have a honeymoon. We couldn't afford one because we had to save the money for a deposit on a house. We started a family pretty quickly. I didn't go back to work for another 14 years. I didn't return to nursing because I'd need retraining by then. So I became an embroidery machinist at Bentley's. After that, I went into linen services at Hull Royal Infirmary, where I met my best friend, Barbra. Then I went back to college to study typing and administration, and that led me to a job at Constable Primary School, behind Boyce's. It was a lovely school. We saw life from all different sides. And I was happy to retire from that school, but unfortunately they knocked it down in 2006. So I took Steve as well, by the way, off to Cornwall, and I got a job as an administrator in Penrice College. And I panicked when they offered me a permanent job there, and I thought, God, I don't know if I want to be here for the rest of my life. So we returned in 2007. Obviously, I didn't take the job. My final job was a passenger transport driver, and collected SEM pupils from home, took them to school and returned them back again. And on the first day of the bus, a shoe came whizzing past me ear. And I thought, I think this is what every day is going to be like from now on. I loved that job and I retired in 2015. participated in the Sea of Hull, and that involved being naked and painted blue. My husband thought I was mad to even consider it. As the weeks passed and it was getting nearer, my nerves were beginning to kick in. I lost count of the times I nearly pulled out. We had to be in Queen's Gardens very early. I left my home about 1:30 a.m. When I arrived at Princess Quay, I sort of took a few deep breaths just to calm me down. And a car pulled up at the side of me. Out got a lady with her 2 daughters. I asked them if they were doing the Sea of Hull. Yes, they said, and invited me to walk with them, and that eased my nerves quite a lot. We went to the stations, but the mum and her 2 daughters had to go to a different station to me, so I was on my own again. 3 girls came and stood near me. We got talking and they told me they was from Cambridgeshire. We spoke to people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and obviously this country. We girls had agreed to stick together, and when it came to putting the paint on our backs, we'd do each other. When Spencer Tunick was amazed at how many people had turned up, around 3,200 I think in total. But the sun was beginning to rise, and I for one was getting nervous again. I didn't want to be unpainted and naked when the workers were coming to start their day. Finally, we collected our paint pot, and it was shockingly small. not much bigger than a Nivea cream tub. And I just thought, no way is this going to cover me. And what about the bigger people? Anyway, we stripped off and started painting. My boobs were the first, and the rest followed. With each other's backs, and guess what? There was still a little bit of paint in the pot. And in case you're all wondering, no, we didn't peek. Our different groups were called in order required. And the first photo call was at the Rose Bowl in Queen's Gardens. Moving on from the Rose Bowl, we walked towards Guildhall, with a bus following us full of photographers. We was asked to lay down on our left side. I was right under the traffic lights in case you're checking it in Ferrens Way. Moving from the... sorry, I've gone a bit too far there. Our group went down Manor Street, which is opposite Guildhall. We were asked to lay on our backs. Looking up, we saw there was this massive, great big security camera just looking down at us. And we just went, have he sat there looking at us? He's made his day. Then we all burst out laughing. Our next stop was outside the steps of Guildhall. We were asked to bend over. And once again, all of us burst out laughing. I bent over, and I was hoping the one behind me was doing the same. Looking down on the ground. The swing bridge on the High Street was the final photo call for us, and Spencer Tunick asked for any volunteers. Well, by then, my goose pimples were getting a bit big, and that sun was getting higher in the sky. So I asked the girls what they wanted to do, and I didn't want to do it, and they said they were too cold as well, so we walked back to Queen's Gardens, on which they give us a little packet of wet wipes. I mean, can you believe it? A little packet of wet wipes to clean all that blue off. I thought, well, my best option here is to just do my face and hands so I don't muck up the steering wheel. And I got my hooded dressing gown on that I remembered to bring. So 4 showers later, I was free of blue paint. But I was so proud of myself that I'd done it. It was way, way out of my comfort zone. But I'm in Ferrens Gallery, so if you can find me, good luck. I've done other things since this out of my comfort zone, and I'll tell you what, tonight is definitely one of them.